Yo, what is up guys, Bob Needsman King here, and today we are doing part 2 of me ranking every character in Total Drama. Where in my last video I covered the characters on the lower end of things, from characters like Sierra, who I outright don't like, to overrated icky characters that I never enjoyed like Cody, and characters who while I somewhat enjoy, I just think they fall short of a few qualities like Damien. Unlike my last video where I covered 3 tiers in the bottom, this video will cover 2 tiers in my likable tier. The first tier is the Hear Me Out tier, characters who are unpopular in the community that aren't everyone's cup of tea, but it is my cup and I am drinking it down. Also characters who while probably should be in the mixed tier, I don't have a bitter feeling about them like I do with characters in the mixed tier. Where the Hear Me Out tier falls short is that while I do enjoy them, they definitely aren't perfect and just don't get enough screen time overall, but we'll just talk about that when we get to it. Then the final tier for the video is the true likable characters who I really like and see almost no issue with. The reason why they're likable and not lovable though is because I just don't carry an emotional attachment to them, but they're still great overall. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's just get started. At number 71, a character who is very unpopular within the fandom, a character who I think a lot of people are going to be annoyed that he is above the winner of his own season, and it is Leonard. Now, is Leonard a wizard? No. Is Leonard's stereotype a realistic one? Not really. I mean, I knew LARPers, but not ones who genuinely believed they possessed actual powers. However, Leonard is so ridiculous, and he's not really harming the enjoyment of the episode for me, despite how weird it is. I find it really funny, and I know a lot of people don't like how gimmicky it is, but considering Pockettail Island's nature, I think it fits, and I enjoy how delusional he was. Also, him just easily rage-baiting Dave is funny as hell. Even though he was cannon fodder in the Redonkulous race, I'm not complaining on how Tammy and him were eliminated. It was pathetic, but honestly, I can enjoy that. I would go as far to say that Leonard might be one of the better written Gen 3 characters, but I'm not a crazy Leonard defender. He's still number 71 at the list, and that's mostly because he's in 4 episodes. I know that I bash Sean for being too gimmicky with the zombie stuff, but that's because there's other stuff to explore with Sean, and they don't give the zombie fear a nuanced look for me to genuinely find this interesting. And while Leonard's isn't that interesting either, it brings me more enjoyment, so yeah. Sean is still a badass in the scene where he destroys the crisp spots for what it's worth though. At number 70 and 69, we have a Redonkulous race duo, and it's the Step Brothers, who are actually pretty funny. They do grin a little on being a bit too raunchy with their douchey personalities, but considering they only interact with each other, I think it works. Their concept and execution is handled much better than Amy and Sammy, where their parents put them on the show so they can get along, and we see their rivalry over fighting over who's better until they eventually get along. So along in fact that they get eliminated because they just don't want to make the other upset by questioning if the kangaroo is actually the albino rabbit, but hey, their downfall is pretty funny and also just pretty wholesome as well. Just in general, the Step Brothers really work for who they are. I think they're funny, and I think their story ends in a nice way, and they don't feel too dragged out. The fashion bloggers could have lasted a bit longer, though I'm just biased in that opinion, so yeah, I don't have that much else to say about these two. I think they're a pretty well written comedic duo. At number 68 and 67, we have another Redonkulous race duo, and it's Jerry and Pete. 3 episodes with these two weren't going to place them extremely high. However, one, I had headcanoned that it's the real Jerry and Pete mentioned in the 16 episode, where Jen and Caitlin fight over the dress to go with the tennis rivals. And more importantly too, they have such fun banter together that it's contagious, because I find them to be really funny. Despite the label of rivals, they feel like better friends than the actual best friends on the cast. All shade because fuck the best friends. Plus Jerry arguing if his foot was in or not was also just funny as hell, even though I've never watched a tennis match in my entire life. At number 66, this will catch me some flack, but also will shock people considering I glaze his partner all the time, and it's Raj. Before I talk about Raj and why he's here, let's talk about the main reason why he is so high anyways, because originally he was below Damien. Raj and Bowie have a beautiful but condensed story in season 1. I find every scene that they have to be very cute together, and the leaked confessional of Raj saying that he's a dude who's into dudes is really heartwarming, honestly. I like that this dynamic gives Raj another layer instead of comedic relief number 50 on the male side of Gen 5. It's also cute how nervous he gets around his first crush who is also a dude. Their first kiss is very adorable as well, where Raj just goes for it, and seeing how flustered Raj is with Bowie just kind of reminds me why this ship is my favorite ship of the entire show. Also, the poem in the mouth guard is an amazing send-off gift for him, even though I question when Raj wrote it because I would have loved to see that. Moving forward to season 2, I like that Raj was encouraging Bowie to give a great apology to the cast for betraying them. I think the cheating storyline characterizes Raj very well since he doesn't like the concept of cheating, especially if his boyfriend is participating in it. This is probably my favorite version of Raj since even though he's not the smartest, he makes his boundaries clear and makes me side with him instead of Bowie, who is someone who placed very high on the rankings. I think Raj with Bowie brings out his best qualities aside from just being a dumb jock. He can be sassy like in the finale when he mocks Bowie for being wrong. He's also just so adorable as well that it makes it hard for me to not like Raj. With his friendship with Wayne, honestly, aside from the coming out scene, I can't bring myself to care about Wayne and Raj's friendship that much, sorry to say it. Their friendship is okay, and the coming out scene really warmed my heart and also caused me to cry. It's just that Wayne makes Raj just so stupid for the sake of being stupid, and in season 1 it wasn't awful since the writers had them be fun creative leaders and challenges, but in season 2 it is just so aimless, and it's clear that without Bowie, the show really doesn't know what to do with Raj, which is honestly so weird. Like, you could just have Wayne go whenever and have Raj carry the rivalry with Julia since she caused his boyfriend to go home. But instead, we have Wayne encouraging Raj to accept Julia as their teammate in the next episode, which, while fine on paper, I guess, they don't share any meaningful interactions, and that's honestly such a shame to me. Raj could have been a great rival for Julia instead of Julie just steamrolling off screen with her bag of plot armor, since the cat's brains were turned off and they act like episode characters who have 0 diamonds. Rather Raj wins the war or not is whatever, but at least he has something to do. I think both Wayne and Bowie sandwiched Raj into being the Kevin Jonas of the trio. Wayne got a whole side plot of him trying to get Raj to come out to him, meanwhile Bowie is the clear narrator for the two in season 1. Season 2 is semi-better because Bowie leaves earlier, but after Bowie goes, so does Raj's relevance on the season. Like Damien, I just wish the show took Raj more seriously because he has all the traits to make him the best himbo on the show, but he's just used as a plot tool and can't individually hang with the others, so even though I love Rajbo, and Bowie boost is definitely helping him on the rankings, I can't say that I'm attached to him like I am with the other 65 characters. At number 65, I'm going to get shit on for having the next 2 characters above Raj, but honestly, I really don't care. And I've always loved him, and it's Beardo. My counter argument to anyone who actively hates him is honestly just watch his audition tape. Watch it, I'm seriously. Beardo says 1,000 words even if it's a 15-second clip. He's a shy beatboxer, but if he warms up to people, he can open up. That's super endearing to me since as a kid, I was so shy that it wasn't until my freshman year of high school where people actually knew how he sounded like. I only really talked to a few people a day aside from my family, and that was where I could actually let loose. And while this reason for having Beardo this high is potential driven and me just coping, I just can't help but be drawn to Beardo as a character. Beardo is like a friend that I'll defend with my entire life, as silly as it sounds. I actually love the concept of him beatboxing to make friends since he's going with his passions. It could have helped if he didn't make a sound effect to make Sugar sound like she farted, and if he didn't rage bait Dave, but hey, half a point. Actually, he gets a 0.75 because I still find him making the fart sound to be really funny, and his elimination noise is something that is super addicting to hear. Beardo is just a fun fodder boot that had a lot of potential. Also, even though B Ultra is the GOAT, I hate the fact that now whenever someone mentions Beardo in the comments, everyone is just saying it's a shame he died though, it's a shame he died though, and I know I'm going to get comments like this because I pointed it out, but it's just kind of annoying to hear. This probably might be how Logan fans feel whenever people say he should have drowned, but dude, Beardo 16, I don't know. Anyways, yeah, I love Beardo and I think he's awesome. At number 64, another Pocketel Island character, and it's Rodney. I'm sorry, but I find Rodney so real and hilarious. For starters, I don't know how obvious it is, but I am a simp. I do fall fast for people. And while not as fast and as delusional to think that I'm actually in a relationship with someone, I do watch TikTok edits and imagine scenarios with whoever I have a crush on at the moment. I don't really find Rodney to be an offensive character. He's harmless, funny, and has a pretty satisfying ending for me because his elimination setup is really funny. And overall, I think there's just a lot of fun to be had with Rodney when you let go and stop treating Pocketel Island like a normal season. I find Rodney's stick to be really entertaining. At number 63, our final non-verbal king or queen depending on your take if B is trans or not, and that is B. I love how clever B is. He's just a helpful person and a genuine soul. I like B and Dawn, and while I'm definitely a Scott and Dawn shipper, I can appreciate their little moments. B's reaction to Scott calling him out and getting him eliminated is just honestly really funny to me. I don't know why, but even though I partly feel bad for B, I just can't take his sad face seriously. Also, him attempting to speak is just a cherry on top. The reason why B is here though is because he doesn't do much overall in the season, and I just don't think about B like that even though he is cool. At number 62, a character that should debatably annoy me just as much as MacArthur. Hell, I think in a way she is MacArthur, and it's Sugar. And yeah, Sugar is also very disgusting and obnoxious at several points during the season. I can't even unironically enjoy her crap shit sultry performance. The scene where she puts her hand in the monkey's body just, ugh, god, it makes me want to crawl out of my skin. On top of that, you can even argue that Sugar's treatment of Ella is worse than MacArthur's treatment to Sanders. Actually, no, you can't even argue that, it is the reality. However, the show acknowledges that Sugar is a complete whack job and doesn't give her a nuanced look because this is who Sugar is. I don't like the fake redemption where MacArthur somewhat respects Sanders, because MacArthur had to damn near almost unalive Sanders to treat her like a teammate. Also, I just find her dismissal of Sanders to be kind of icky, so honestly, not much I can do for you MacArthur fans watching the video. Sugar is a crack personality, and when she isn't disgusting, I find her to be hilarious. She's just a type of mean-spirited that I love. She'll fuck with Steve and Sky trying to have their moment, she'll sabotage others, she'll treat Ella like shit and cause her elimination. Sugar is not a great person by any means, but as a villain, I do respect what she brings to the show, and I find her one-sided rivalry with Ella to be one of my favorite parts of Pocktail Island. I'd agree as an antagonist that Sugar is on the weaker end, but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy what she brings to the season. At number 61 and 60, we have the Adversity Twins. Okay, you're probably thinking to yourself, Bodvi, you've rarely mentioned them, and anytime you have, you've been quite dismissive of the Adversity Twins, and you're right. However, I think the Adversity Twins have hit my funny bone because I can't take anything they say seriously with the depressing Feel Bad For Me theme song playing in the background. Their highs are like the highs of Olivia's character pre-friendship with Nora, where I'm not rooting for them, but I love seeing them suffer through their shortcomings, as dark as it sounds. That's the reason why they're this high on the list. They work for me in the comedic aspect, and I like laughing at them. So they're at number 61 and 60. At number 59 and 58, we have a team that has grown on me a lot, partly thanks to I'm Beans, and that is the Vegans. I like the Vegans in the same way I like Ashley Trail from Big Brother. They are so independently themselves I have to stand, and I love how caring the Vegans are about the environment and their diets. I am not a vegan though. I couldn't quit putting meat in my mouth. Resume. Anyways, as bad as I feel that they had to eat the meat, like Jerry, Lori's crash out is really funny. Plus, her final episode is just full of unfortunate events, and it's honestly really fun to watch. Overall, their peaceful energy, only to have a very sad downfall, is one that I really enjoy, but not one that's going to place them ridiculously high on the list. At number 57, another All-Stars victim, and it's Sam. Sam, my beloved chud in Revenge of the Island. I love Sam's self-awareness and his ability to be himself regardless. I love that even though he's aware that the chances of him and Dakota getting together are slim to none, he still shoots his shot. And like Raj's relationship with Bowie, Sam is mostly this high due to his relationship with Dakota. I love how kind and supportive Sam is with Dakota, and the way he treats her better than everyone else is just honestly super sweet. However, unlike with Raj, I find Sam's stereotype of being this self-aware gamer chud, but despite his shortcomings of not being able to hang with the other guys, he still puts in effort like in Finders Creepers, or his iconic gamer moment in Runway Model. Sam is also just funny as hell even if his references are dated and also just overused. Even though I think Brick should have been on All-Stars over Sam, I do get the choice of casting Sam for All-Stars. Was his story done? Yes. But I think most times Sam is a character who can get any placement and it wouldn't kill his character. However, All-Stars just did him dirty. I like the concept of him going back so he can become mutated, but that doesn't go anywhere and he's literally just physical slapstick. I actually will give them credit though, because Evil Dread is carried by him and especially Lightning. Also, him screaming "It's not gay child but gay man" to Alejandro is so progressive, like go off, ally.
It's not gay child, it's gay man!
But he really just feels like a deadweight on All-Stars, and the show just makes him stick out like a sore thumb by just having him be used and abused by Wabanakwa. But yeah, despite the mixed return, I still really like Sam's positive energy throughout most of his run, and I just really like Sam overall as a character, and I think he is a really sweet person. At number 56, back with a Generation 1 character, and it's Eva. I think Eva is a solid character overall. I think she's entertaining because she's a ticking time bomb of a crash out, and it's honestly just funny. Just overall, Eva is just a very funny character because of her temper. My issue is that when she gets eliminated and reflects, which was a good scene where she obviously knows that her anger got the better of her, but she obviously still wants revenge on her team because of her anger issues, only to then come back and just hate Bridget out of all people? Which to me just feels weird as hell since she's targeting the only girl left on her team. You could argue it's because she's friends with Courtney, but Duncan is literally right there. It's funny that she's fodder, but I wish she had that beef with some men on her team, especially when they all did worse things overall compared to Bridget, but whatever. Eva is still a character that I like and does have potential, so yeah, she's here. At number 55, and the next 4 characters are all pretty interchangeable for me for the most part, but the reason why this person falls at number 55 is because I think they have the least going on individually, and it's Sanders. Like Raj and Damien, a lot of stuff happens around Sanders, but if I told you what Sanders did to contribute, there's just not a whole lot to talk about. However, I do still love that she's the level-headed one and tries to keep MacArthur in check instead of just being an enabler. I think she's pretty funny, like when she's told Stephanie that she needs help. Also, like Sam, I think Sanders is just a great person. She's a really likable character who deserves a much better partner. I just wish the show gave us more solo Sanders content for me to cover. I like Sanders as a winner, and I think she's a huge part as to why I don't dislike the police cadets overall, despite MacArthur being, well, you know what I think of her from the last video. At number 54, down-to-earth surfer chick Bridget. I understand the criticism that Bridget gets for being boring, but honestly, I kinda disagree. Bridget provides some real freedom from all the women just sticking strong to their stereotypes. I like that Bridget is a level-headed character and feels like a real person, like when her and Courtney were mocking Jeff for the crappy arts and crafts. It's a fun scene, and I really miss Courtney and Bridget just interacting as friends. I also really like her stereotype of being the surfer girl because she can so easily fit with any of the characters during Island. She also isn't a pushover nor afraid of taking accountability. She'll take on a dare, she'll press Ezekiel for his sexist comments, and also vote out Duncan for just being overall a dick. Also, she replaces Courtney after she destroys her violin and Not Quite Famous. Not to mention, she carries a bunch of disgustingness for me where she's easily the main character of the episode for me. She helps Lindsay during the challenge, and I also like that she sides with the right people in Lashana and Gwen. Also, Bridget and Gwen's friendship is a strong one that was just later dropped, unfortunately. Extreme Torture is a comfort episode for me because Gwen and Bridget's side plot of figuring out who wrote the haiku is really entertaining. Not because of, well, that scene that you're thinking of. In action, I used to be down on Bridget because she just made out with Jeff and was kinda dull, but now I don't think that anymore. Well, I halfly don't think that. I don't like the kissing stuff, but I think she's a really good foil to Jeff's ego during the aftermaths. She's always holding him accountable and even breaks up with him. Even though I find Jeff to be the more entertaining host, Bridget still provides as a good host overall. Her asking Gwen an anonymous question only to get caught is really funny. Her interrogating Jeff on the chair is another fun moment. And I find Jeff and Bridget to just play off each other really well during every action aftermath. World Tour is also kind of a mixed bag as well, where she cheats on Jeff and that's pretty awful. Though I get why she does. 1, Alejandro could have charmed anyone in World Tour. 2, he treated her way better than Jeff did in the aftermath of action. And 3, this is kind of my own personal headcanon, but I think Jeff flirting and getting all the attention from other girls still kind of just grained on her mind while she was competing. And also she just kind of forgot about Jeff as well, she mentions that in the show. Am I justifying her cheating? Of course not. But I think it makes a lot more sense here, and it wasn't as convoluted in the case of Duncan cheating on Courtney. It's just nice to see how Bridget handles being in the wrong, and it also gives us I'm sorry, which is better than Justin Bieber's version, I'm sorry, fight me. And I also think she somewhat makes it up to him, so yeah. I'm not really the biggest shipper when it comes to total drama overall, but I don't hate Jeff and Bridget together. I think they're sweet at points, but aside from action and a few cute moments in World Tour, I can't say that they're a couple that's on my mind all the time. But what makes Bridget so high is that despite her relationship with Jeff, she's still her own character and has qualities that I really like. I feel connected to Bridget way more than I do for someone like Axel, someone who just struggles to pave her own path beyond Ripper and her stereotype. At number 53, we have Jasmine. Similarly to Sean, I think I've said my opinion on Jasmine over and over again, and it's also pretty much the consensus. Well, sort of. I don't believe she carries Pockettail Island, but that's not a take away from her impact. She's very likable, and I love her friendship with Sammy, where she gives her the confidence to stand up to Amy. Their scenes are really nice, and it's a shame that Jasmine never mentions Sammy after she goes. Her relationship with Sean is another standout where I think aside from the zombie stuff, they're almost made for each other. They're really cute together and share a lot of chemistry. Sean isn't my personal winner, but I like the ending these two share in its winning ending. However, what bumps her down is that 1, I don't get why she held a grudge against Sean for winning against her in the challenge. Like, yeah, I agree that Sean hit her too hard, but like, if he didn't win, he definitely goes. And it's also not entirely his fault because of Dave, but whatever, that's just pretty dumb in my opinion. Another thing is that whole 50-50 split the money thing. It's so stupid and forced drama. You guys aren't Rob and Amber. You guys are 2 teenagers who met like a few weeks ago. Splitting $1 million is honestly just kind of insane to me. I know Gwen was going to split 100k with Owen, but I think that situation is completely different since it was at the expense of Heather. Despite those two things though, Jasmine is still a good entertaining character, but I just like everyone else more. At number 52, wrapping up the Hear Me Out tier was the biggest one, and it's Nichelle. You guys will never get me to hate Nichelle or believe that she's a bad character, I'm sorry. I love Nichelle's overconfident attitude and her hyping herself up to her team only to then bomb the challenge. It's honestly really entertaining just watching herself love herself and get praise from others as well. She's pretty funny in that aspect, and if we want to humor lightning, shabams, and self-glaze, we can do the same with Nichelle. Also, the deleted scene of her being genuinely distraught over losing for her team and Bowie comforting her is honestly really cute and gives me some Dakota energy. Obviously, yeah, Nichelle has lived a very privileged life, but she's insecure deep down just like Dakota. I'm not a big fan of her off-screen glow-up of her just being a beast in challenges. Well, I do because it gave us some iconic moments like her mogging on Bowie, but I just wish it wasn't a complete 180. Also, I think the show completely wastes her potential. Nichelle and Julia could have been the main rivalry of the reboot season 2. Julia could have been salty over Nichelle not respecting her as an influencer, and Nichelle could put Julia down for just not being skilled enough. These two are very entertaining characters who are debatably some of the strongest competitors of the season. They also have great on-screen chemistry together. But no, Nichelle's just fodder in the least satisfying way possible. I do get the criticisms for her character, but she brings me joy, and there's still a lot for me to dig into if I want to explore her character, so yeah, I really like Nichelle. She's at number 52. At number 51, starting it off with a definitive I like you tier with all the characters left being characters who I really like watching, but just aren't at the top of the top, but have actually been at one point or has shot up to this tier and could potentially be higher in the future. And at the bottom, we have someone who I've just soured on a lot, and it's DJ. And DJ used to be this role model for me as a kid, where growing up there weren't many black characters who felt like, well, characters. Either they were a token black character or just borderline offensive with their stereotype. DJ is just a normal, more sensitive guy and also a giver. And while I didn't relate to the normal part back then, as a kid I was also sensitive, soft-spoken, and also a giver to a degree. On top of that, DJ is also just ripped, so yeah, he was practically my role model when I was first getting into total drama. Is Wyatt Williams from 16 better representation? Absolutely, and it's not even remotely close as far as relatability and characterization goes, but this video isn't a 16 ranking. DJ's just a chill guy who bros down with his friends, but is also a really wholesome person like when he befriends Bunny. He also helps Jeff out with Bridget, so bonus points there. In challenges, he's also another reason as to why Island has some of the most entertaining challenge moments of any season. He's the first contestant to get a full censored beep due to the heights. His ribbon dance was something, though I didn't hate it. He also has his epic moment of overcoming his fear by the help of Jeff. He mogs Owen in Paintball Deer Hunter, where DJ is fully in his element, and even though I despise this elimination for how stupid it is as why not just have a vote, him screaming because he got scared of Heather's legs is just a very funny, memorable moment. In action, I really love the side alliance plotline that he has with Chef. These two play off each other incredibly well, and my enjoyment of this plotline could be boosted by me believing in the theory that DJ has two moms. Why is this important? Well, because Chef is obviously a man and literally tells DJ that he reminds him of himself, and also kind of treats him as a son of his own in his own Chef way, but that's just me. Action DJ has his best plotline, but it's also where his personality slowly declines. Like Chef's right-hand man, Chris, DJ slowly becomes more and more flanderized to be a mama's boy. It worked in action since he had a conscience, so that's why he quit. Also, side note, he saves Lindsay by doing it, so thanks DJ. But in World Tour, yeah, no, his Mama I'm Coming Home stick, as well as his animal curse as well, is the worst. It is so unfunny, and the fact that he's the last member of Team Victory has never not annoyed me throughout most of my current rewatches of World Tour. I don't feel bad for DJ, and I think in World Tour he just becomes a shell of his former self. Can you guys tell I don't like the reboot Season 2 and World Tour? Anyways, DJ is just such a tough character to place. In Island he's great, in action he's good, but in World Tour, DJ is just a complete dud that overstays his welcome. On top of that, his character became a half chill, half sensitive guy to just a complete baby that you just want to see quit or just leave the show at this point. I definitely like the idea of DJ more than DJ himself, so I probably won't be shocked if he's bumped down dramatically in the future, despite my younger self really appreciating him at the time. So yeah, he's here at number 51. At number 50, kind of like DJ, where I think I like the concept of this character more so than the character itself, and it's Scott. Revenge of the Island Scott is obviously based on Russell Hantz, and while I think Russell Hantz is a Survivor player, Russell Hance is a great TV presence, and same goes to Scott. His whole stick of throwing challenges to get out his team is a strategy that didn't work as he intended, however it did create for some great moments. His one-sided feud with B is still ridiculous to me, and when he frames B yelling sabotage, it was honestly a vocal stim for my brother and I back in the day. Also, just in general, Scott debatably has the best one-liners of the entire show. In Revenge, he's a good balance between comedic villain to just a complete dickhead. At points, it does get into Duncan and action territory though when it's a little too much and I just don't like it. I know Grand Chef Otto is the Scott episode as a villain, but as a kid I hated seeing him put Mike through it, and even now it still gives me an icky feeling that he's using Mike's discomfort and his DID disorder to his own benefit and then eliminates him afterwards. He does get a very satisfying downfall though. I was screaming of joy when he was gone, and I'm man enough to admit it, I still don't share the same sympathy for Scott when he got his ass ripped up by Fang, like I did with Zeke when his life got ruined. Despite that whole situation though, he definitely is one of the reasons as to why I love Revenge of the Island. I really ship him and Dawn. They could have reheated Duncan's nachos, except the roles could have been reversed where Scott embraces his true emotions, but I'll settle for what we got, and the banter that they have is still fun. I don't see enough people talking about the potential of Scott and Zoe. It kind of gives me Ara and Nora vibes now that I'm talking about it, and if you know my thoughts on Nora and Ara, I don't hate this and I really wish they could have developed something further if Revenge wasn't a 13 episode season. I like how Scott is able to manipulate Zoe and get her on her good side, only to then cut Mike, and then that leads to the two having a really good rivalry. Was I team Zoe in this? Absolutely. But Scott is still entertaining to me. Scott really has chemistry with most of the women he interacts with, which I guess segues into me talking about Scottney and I kind of like the ship. Scott teasing Courtney is pretty reminiscent of Duncan, but what makes him better than Dunkney overall as a ship is Scott being such a goofball in the relationship. It's really cute and funny and relatable as someone who has unfortunately fumbled my words a lot. I don't think the couple is meant to have that much nuance, and honestly, I'm fine with it. My main issue with Scott in All Stars though is that it feels like he has a lobotomy. He was always a faulty strategist. In Revenge of the Island, he planned to throw out every challenge, which does have its benefits, but he never bothers to make an alliance with Lightning earlier on, and also if he wasn't going to do that, I think he should have just dropped Lightning a lot earlier for just being a crazy physical threat, but that's just a topic for another day. Here in All Stars, aside from a few Revenge Scott moments that happen in like the first 5 episodes, Scott is just resigned to being slapstick. Everything Scott does is just a complete joke, and while it is funny, it just makes Scott completely one note and it doesn't help him on this ranking. They could have had him and Courtney be like the ice dancers, but dating. It is still fun to watch him be the beta to Courtney, but when Total Drama All Stars has the biggest villain ever, I kind of want some pushback from, you know, the villains. Especially since Mike and Scott had this crazy ending in Revenge of the Island, maybe Mal could have wanted some revenge or just use him, but they only really interact twice, and Scott is just as stupid as Wayne, and Wayne is pretty much a non-functioning character. He sucks. There are massive high highs with Scott, but the lows are pretty hard to ignore, and since I've never been able to shake the ickiness of him using someone's disorder as leverage in the game, yeah, him being on number 50 is pretty generous. At number 49, we have Rock. I really relate to Rock. Rock is the type of guy who may not be the smartest of everyone, but still tries to give it his all and succeeds to hopefully have his own basement to rock out with his best bud Spud. He's a really fun and charming character, and I love his leadership to actually get Spud to try. I side with Rock throughout most of the Redonkulous race, and I feel bad that he got a shitty partner because Rock on his own is a really good character that's often forgotten, probably due to Spud just being a dud. Not much else to say since he doesn't really serve a huge purpose on a season. And that last part couldn't be any truer for number 48 and 47 with the fashion bloggers. These two also give me Ashley Trail vibes. I love how aloof they are, that they're in a competition where they spend time shopping or getting a crazy tan. They're just so energetic that it makes me happy to see them on screen. They also kind of remind me of me and my friend, but she probably isn't watching this video. I also love their friendship and their bickering in their final episode. It's really funny. However, I just love when they make up even more, and their friendship is just so wholesome and kind of means a lot to me. I love these two, and if they got more episodes, they would definitely shoot up to the second highest tier. At number 46, back with a Pockettail Island character, and it's Scarlet. I love that she's an under the radar smart villain. Her reserved personality makes her quick wit jokes land a lot more, and it's fun watching her deal with Max being a complete idiot most of the time. Her inventions and strategy to let Max go is all really entertaining stuff to watch. And I like that she's the one to discover that the island is robotic. The problem? Scarlet Fever is, It's a cool looking episode, but there's really not much to like. Her plan doesn't make that much sense and it just feels extremely lazy. Why not just have her be the overpowered final boss that can run the game purely in challenges since she knows her way around the robotic island technology, and then have her leave by her underestimating her competitors instead of making her this cartoonishly evil character, really. I like the petty insanity of how she tortures her little brother, but this? I haven't met a single soul who likes her conclusion. Scarlet is obviously still a great character to watch before that though, and I think her and Max are a great duo to watch. At number 45, the first reboot winner, and it's Priya. I've talked about Priya in season 1 already in my winner rankings, but I think she's a solid, interesting, and likable character there. She has a relatable presence like Bridget, because Priya feels like a real person when she interacts with other characters and never gets too gimmicky. My issues with her is that she wins over Bowie, who 1 was a much better choice to win the season, and 2, it fuels the idea that Priya's parents are justified in robbing their kid of their childhood. Like, the show never really condemns Priya's parents, and if they do, they either take it back immediately, or just play it off for laughs, which I don't like at all. In the reboot season 2, she's probably one of the few characters that actually grew on me. For starters, her crush on Caleb is really cute to watch, and it's portrayed very naturally. She gets him to come out of his shell a little more, and her being flustered with her first real crush is honestly really cute. I don't blame her for crushing out on Caleb for lying to her, but I wish she would have listened to him sooner. Though I understand it's kind of in her character to be blinded by rage and just kind of blank people. I want to ship Caleb and Priya, but there's 2 things holding me back. 1, their relationship goes through one of the most irritating circles of them being on good terms and quickly falling apart due to Caleb's stupidity and Priya's unwillingness to hear him out. And 2, which is kind of petty, but it kind of just reminded me of me and my prom date. Though I've never had a boulder thrown at me, so maybe it wasn't that bad, but it's just annoying to watch them throughout episode 8 until like the last few minutes of the worst season ever. However, even though I find Caleb frustrating throughout the whole Julia stuff, I really do side with Priya's frustrations, and I like her rivalry with Julia. It's a shame it wasn't written the best, but their feud in the final 4 episode is great. Priya definitely has her faults, and I see why people have had enough of her character to where I know everyone wants her gone ASAP if we get a reboot season 3, but I still disagree. Unless she doesn't tone down her competitive edge with Caleb, then maybe she should probably go. But I think she's still an entertaining character to watch, and I enjoy her, despite the storylines that she was put in, not portraying her in the best light in the world, but yeah, I still really like her. At number 44, the Eric Cartman of Total Drama, and it's Ripper. This is how you make an obnoxious character peak. Ripper is a massive dickhead, yes, but he gets dunked on all the time to where you just can't take him seriously. He's just so fun to watch. His celebration when he gets the final marshmallow over Scary Girl, him smashing a baby bird onto the ground, and even though he's alone and teasing the nerds, he has so much fun doing it that it's a little funny. He also breaks the world record in farting, but I'm not the fart fairy, so I don't care, but I feel like people are going to say I didn't mention it, so yeah. Him using Priya as a shield is just another moment of him being a prick, but I just can't hate him for it. His whole purpose is being a gross comedic annoyance, and it works to perfection in season 1. He bounces off every character amazingly. With Axel, the two have a very fun captain rivalry, giving V advice on how to seduce a cassowary. And finally, his advice on helping Millie, while kinda shitty, at least he tries, and it's also pretty funny to watch him mimic them. In season 2, he's mostly there to just win over Axel, but it's still really funny. He's a bumbling fool, but he doesn't act completely out of character, and his poem to Axel is sweet. Overall, Ripper is just used greatly in both seasons he competes in. From being one of the best rage baiters in season 1 with a lot of great reactions to a lot of stuff, and also great interactions, to becoming a love-struck numpty in season 2. But I think it works because him being the beta in the relationship makes so much sense, but yeah, I really like Ripper for what he brings to the show. At number 43, a character that has really shot up where I've made a video praising this character, and she was also very high on my winner rankings, and it's Beth. Look, I don't typically subscribe to the notion that if blank had this quality, people would like her, but if Beth's design wasn't so poorly received and had a better one, I genuinely believe people would like her story a lot more. Her development is criminally underrated. From starting off as this insecure girl who is Heather's lackey to then standing up to Heather and then in the following season just blank her and then completely destroy her in a challenge where Heather thought she had her beat. She clocks with Shauna's tea, she has a newfound confidence, and is an all-around great competitor. I think she's a much more satisfying winner than Duncan because her win feels earned with all the growth she's been through. And if she returned in World Tour, she could have easily blown Alejandra's spot and I would have loved to see it. Beth grows into her own person and I'm happy with where the show takes her. The reason why she isn't higher is because, well, she does cheat on her boyfriend because she wants to essay Harold, which is, yeah, gross. And what makes it even nastier is that she kisses him with puke in her mouth, which is just, ugh, nasty. Aside from that moment, though, which I try to blank because yeah, she's still a solid all-around character, so yeah. At number 42, another character who grows to stand up for herself, and it's Sammy. I like that Sammy is the one to trick Amy to cause her elimination instead of getting help from Jasmine. Seeing her pretend to be Amy is also really funny, and her reaction to everyone just bashing her is hilarious, even though I do feel bad and sympathize with her in this situation. I'm happy that she grew a backbone, but like my issues with Amy, this plot doesn't turn out in the best way. At least for Sammy, she's on the same playing field, so she won't take the abuse, but I think the better alternative is that they have some level of decency towards each other. But that's just the problem of giving these two characters 5 episodes. She's still a really likable character though, I just wish she had more to do aside from Jasmine and Amy. Maybe she could have approached Topher since she thought he was cute, but oh well. At number 41, another Pockettail Island character, a character that has really grown on me, and it's Ella. Ella is like if Meg was in Family Guy, a nice girl who gets crapped on and mistreated by her whole cast. I'm still not a big fan of her singing because it's honestly not that good and it's pretty annoying, and as a kid this was a major reason as to why I hated her, but also as a kid I hated the fact that the only other time where my name was ever stated in the show is when she called Dave David, so yeah. But now she's at number 41. I do really like her because like the Adversity Twins, it is fun to watch her get dunked on by everyone. But unlike the Adversity Twins, her personality is really enjoyable for me on my latest watches. She's like the most pure person on the entire cast, and she does bounce off Sugar insanely well. I think she also has a very entertaining journey to watch despite her stereotype. Ella is just a doll and she deserved a lot better, but I'm pretty content with where her story went. At number 40, we have Mildred. Mildred is vain for the sake of being a vain reality TV host, and I love it. She's really funny, and every scene that she has with the contestants on the Aftermath is amazing to me. Especially her dynamic with Jeff and Chef when she ends up competing. She's a total drama queen and full of herself, but that's what makes her one of my favorite one-and-done characters of all time. When I bash World Tour characters for feeling lifeless or just bad, know that I'm never talking about Mildred. She should have been the host for Revenge and Pockettail Island. I said what I said. At number 39, a character who has dropped a bit where originally they were going to be in part 3, but I decided not to, and it's Topher. I love Topher's premise of being obsessed with Chris, but then later wants to take over the show and be the host. While Chef obviously points out how dumb the logistics are and Chris humbles him badly, it is still fun watching Topher's scheme, and his success, while in vain, still brings a lot of enjoyment to me. His ego and lack of care for everyone else is really funny. I think we all know the issue with Topher though, he just hardly interacts with anyone on the cast. It's a shame because you have a potential storyline where Amy could try to steal Topher to hurt Sammy, and Topher just plays into it for the ratings, but whatever. I think Topher is a hilarious character, and was one of my favorite characters when I was a kid, and I just think he's very charismatic and charming. At number 38, our final Pockettail Island character for part 2 ends up being Max. He's like modern Stewie from Family Guy, with him wanting to show everyone that he's evil, and not a softie, despite the fact that he literally totally is. I already love Stewie Griffin, but what makes Max so enjoyable for me is that I just can't take him remotely serious because he's just so unserious. He's a character that is so hell-bent on making sure everyone knows he's evil, even though no one will take him seriously. Max is a what you see is what you get type of character, and I know a lot of people find his stick annoying, but Pockettail Island's generation is my comfort generation, and him believing Scarlet is in love with him is just a cherry on top. His elimination is bullshit, but I like the fact that he got sent out with Scarlet, who probably kicked his ass when they were shot out of the cannon. But in the total drama world, he kinda had it coming. His evil line is still amazing, and even though I can't replicate his voice for shit, whenever I rewatch a Max video, his lines always stick out to my head, and yeah, he's just a really fun comedic relief that isn't as raunchy as Ripper, and I kinda just love his ah stick, so yeah, sorry. The final character in part 2, at number 37, a character who I feel bad for how I snubbed her in my 2023 review, and it's Millie, and yeah, I think in retrospect, my dismissal of Millie is partly icky. I did find her boring, but 16-year-old Bodvi was, well, shallow as a puddle, as the 16 character would put it. However, now that I've matured, Millie is a good character. I side with her completely on not liking Priya's parents. Where I think the story goes wrong is that instead of their training arc, they should have had Millie break down on how Priya's parents aren't healthy. Or maybe they could do both, but I think it would have made their friendship feel a lot nicer if they addressed that aspect in their dynamic. However, aside from that, in season 1 she's okay, but season 2 is where she shines for me as a comedic character. I mean, she was always kind of funny, like when she just accepts immunity from Priya, but then again, I think most people would have done the same. But anyways, focusing on season 2, firstly, her cock-blocking Caleb is hilarious. Her telling Damien that she pushed him to the finish line is just amazing delivery from her voice actress. Also, that line and scene is debatably my favorite scene in the reboot season 2, and her reaction to being called a Ripper is great. And I love the moments that her and Damien share in her final episode. Overall, Millie is pretty good, but if she had a better storyline in Season 1 and lasted longer in Season 2, she probably places higher. I think she's a really kind person, and her genuine apology to Priya is probably my favorite scene that these two share. And that's part 2 of me talking about every general likable character to me, and yeah, part 3 will contain a lot of glaze and a lot of praise as we still have a redonkulously amount of characters left to talk about. See what I did there? Because I said redonkulously, and you know, in the redonkulous race there's 36. You know what, whatever, no one even makes it that far to the outro anyways. But yeah, that's the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and peace out, love you all, and yeah, enjoy this episode of Disventure Camp.